March 1st, 1950. The Oval Office hums with a silent dread. President Truman's coffee, forgotten, goes cold as he stares at a confession that threatens to unravel the fabric of global power. Just 6 months prior, the Soviet Union had detonated their atomic bomb, years ahead of Western intelligence estimates. A chilling development. Yes. But what Truman held in his trembling hands was far, far worse. This wasn't a story of a stolen secret, a quick snatch and grab by a Soviet operative. No, this confession revealed a betrayal from within. The bomb wasn't taken. It was handed over by one of America's own scientists, a brilliant mind who dined with Oppenheimer, who absorbed every equation, who helped design the monstrous device known as Fat Man, and then drew its blueprints for Stalin. The walls of the Oval Office, usually a symbol of unwavering power, seemed to shrink, suffocating in the revelation. In that moment, a single name escaped Truman's lips. Barely a whisper, Klaus Fuchs. But how? How does a refugee physicist, a man who fled Hitler's tyranny, become Stalin's most valuable asset? And more importantly, why would he betray the very people who offered him sanctuary, who saved his life? This, my friends, is more than just a spy story. It's a chilling cybercrime documentary waiting to unfold. It's a testament to how easily even the most secure systems can be breached by an insider threat. To understand the true depth of this betrayal, we have to go back, way back. September 23rd, 1949. Imagine yourself in your living room, perhaps by the radio. The static crackling. When the news hits you like a hammer blow, the Soviet Union has the atomic bomb, just 4 years after Hiroshima, the nuclear monopoly, America's presumed decade-long head start, was gone. Panic spread like wildfire, faster than any fallout. But in the hushed corridors of London and Washington, intelligence agencies weren't just panicking. They were asking different, more terrifying questions. How did Stalin's scientists solve problems that took America's best minds years to crack? The whisper of a word began to circulate. Mole. This is where our story takes a turn into the truly fascinating world of counterintelligence. It's a real-life precursor to the kind of digital forensics and network intrusion analysis we see in modern cybersecurity. A top-secret American code-breaking program, known as Venona, had been quietly decrypting Soviet cables since 1943. And what they found in those intercepted communications sent a jolt through every analyst, buried in the digital noise. Like a hidden backdoor in a vast network, were messages about an insider at Los Alamos. Someone, codenamed Rest. This Rest was leaking atomic secrets directly to Moscow. One cable even pinpointed specific dates, specific meetings, specific formulas. A data breach of epic proportions, confirmed by direct evidence. The investigators didn't know Rest's real name yet, but they knew he existed. They knew he walked among the Manhattan Project scientists. They knew he memorized their work. The pieces began to align. Not unlike a malicious payload finding its target within a secure system. Someone had handed Stalin the blueprint for Armageddon. But who would commit such unthinkable treason? And more importantly, why? These are the same questions we ask today when a major corporation is hit by a devastating data breach or a critical infrastructure system is compromised. The how is often technical. The why is always human. London, 1941. The Luftwaffe relentlessly pounded the city, turning it into an inferno. In a cramped flat, a 30-year-old German refugee hunched over quantum mechanics equations. This was Klaus Fuchs, 8 years prior. Nazi brownshirts had knocked out his front teeth for daring to speak against Hitler. His mother, driven to despair by Gestapo harassment, took her own life. His sister followed. His father, a Lutheran pastor who openly defied the Führer, rotted in Nazi prison. Young Klaus watched his entire world burn. Can you even begin to imagine that rage, that grief, that profound sense of injustice? Hitler destroyed everything Fuchs loved. So, he escaped to Britain with a singular, burning goal to fight back with the deadliest weapon he possessed: his brilliant mind. By 1941, Britain desperately needed that mind. Their atomic bomb project, codenamed Tube Alloys, was hemorrhaging talent. Rudolf Peierls, a fellow physicist, recognized Fuchs's genius and recruited him immediately. The quiet German proved invaluable. A theoretical wizard with a photographic memory, capable of processing and retaining vast amounts of complex information, colleagues described him as soft-spoken, polite, almost invisible. Nobody suspected that this man harbored a conviction that would ultimately doom them all. See, Fuchs wasn't just fighting for Britain. When Hitler invaded the Soviet Union in June 1941, something profound clicked in Fuchs's mind. The USSR was now dying by the millions to stop the Nazis. 27 million Soviets would perish in this war. Yet, Churchill and Roosevelt secretly agreed to exclude Stalin from atomic research. To Fuchs, this wasn't just betrayal. It was a recipe for tyranny. The knowledge of atomic research, he believed, should not be the private property of any one country. That's what Fuchs confided to a communist contact in late 1941. Think about that statement for a moment. Really think about it. If one nation monopolizes the most destructive weapon ever conceived, what stops them from enslaving the world? So, Fuchs made a choice that would reverberate through history. He contacted Jurgen Kuczynski, a leader of Britain's underground communist network. Through him, Fuchs volunteered to spy for the Soviet Union. He didn't want money. He didn't want fame. He wanted balance. A world where no single country could threaten nuclear annihilation. Was this a noble goal? Or the delusion of a traitor? The line, as it often is in such high-stakes scenarios, was blurred. In 1942, he began feeding atomic secrets to a Soviet agent with a name straight out of a spy novel, Ursula Kuczynski, codenamed Agent Sonia. By day, Fuchs helped the Allies build humanity's deadliest weapon. By night, he copied those same blueprints for Stalin. 570 pages of British atomic research, reactor designs, uranium enrichment schematics, critical mass calculations flowed through his hands to Moscow by 1943. This wasn't just information, it was the intellectual property of nations. Stolen piece by painstaking piece. Much like modern nation-state actors exfiltrate sensitive data from government networks today. But that was just the beginning. In 1943, a development occurred that gave Fuchs access to the biggest secret on Earth. The Quebec Agreement merged British and American atomic programs. Fuchs was shipped to New York, then Columbia University. He was now inside the Manhattan Project itself. You know where this is heading, don't you? As Fuchs boarded a train bound for a dusty laboratory in New Mexico, he carried the hopes of the free world in his briefcase and the chilling determination to steal them. But first, he needed to reach the most secret place in America. How does a communist spy infiltrate Los Alamos? Perhaps the most secure facility on the planet. And what happens when he gets there? Los Alamos, New Mexico. 1945. The world's smartest humans, racing against time to split atoms behind barbed wire fences. Klaus Fuchs arrived in August 1944. Assigned to the theoretical division under luminaries like Hans Bethe and Edward Teller. His job: calculate how to compress plutonium into supercritical mass, the very heart of the implosion bomb. Fuchs didn't just excel, he became indispensable. Bethe himself called him one of the most valuable men in my division. He literally designed components of Fat Man, the bomb that would be dropped on Nagasaki. His colleagues trusted him completely. That trust was about to cost America everything, unknown to everyone. Fuchs had a new Soviet handler on American soil, Harry Gold. Code-named Raymond. Gold looked like your neighborhood pharmacist. Short, pudgy, utterly forgettable, perfect for espionage. It was the spring of 1945. And the first bomb neared completion. They arranged a meeting that would echo through history. a quiet exchange that reshaped the geopolitical landscape. In a religious mission church in Santa Fe, in the dead of night, a battered blue Buick pulled up to the churchyard. Fuchs was at the wheel. Gold slipped into the passenger seat. They drove into the New Mexico night, making small talk like old friends. But imagine the tension in that car. Both men knew they were committing treason with every mile. They parked on a ridge overlooking Santa Fe's twinkling lights. After an hour of careful, hushed conversation, Fuchs reached into the back seat. His hands shook slightly as he lifted a thick envelope. Inside that package, detailed blueprints for the Fat Man plutonium bomb. The actual design? Gold's pupils dilated. He was holding the power to end cities. They shook hands and vanished into the darkness, knowing they might never meet again. But Gold's journey was just beginning. He took a bus to Albuquerque, then a plane to Kansas City, and finally a train toward New York. For 2 weeks, he clutched those papers like his life depended on it. Because it did. Every stranger could be FBI. Every bump could mean capture. He buried himself in Dickens's Great Expectations, but couldn't focus. How could he? This was the ultimate data transfer. A physical exfiltration of state secrets that dwarfed any modern hack in its immediate consequence. July 16th, 1945. Trinity. Klaus Fuchs stood in the New Mexico desert at 5:29 a.m. The countdown hit 0. Flash. The first nuclear fireball turned night into day. The shockwave hit Fuchs like a physical slap. He watched that mushroom cloud rise. Orange. Purple. Apocalyptic, knowing he had helped calculate its fury. His American colleagues cheered and wept. Some quoted Hindu scripture. Fuchs remained silent. Why? Because he was the only one who knew this power already belonged to Stalin. Between 1944 and 1945, Fuchs fed the Soviets everything gaseous diffusion for uranium enrichment, chain reaction mathematics, reactor blueprints, and most critically, the complete implosion design for plutonium bombs. He even leaked American theories about the hydrogen bomb that didn't even exist yet. Everything from Los Alamos straight to Moscow. This was audacious. Armed guards patrolled Los Alamos 24/7. Mail was censored. Every scientist was watched. Yet Fuchs operated freely, copying documents by hand in his room, memorizing equations like a human computer. Each package he passed shrank America's atomic advantage by months, maybe years. By August 1945, when Japan surrendered, Klaus Fuchs had already given Stalin the recipe for Armageddon. But here's what will really blow your mind. He was just getting started. What happens when the war ends and Fuchs returns to Britain? How long can a spy this ambitious stay hidden? Summer 1949. London. 4 years of peace. But war's secrets refused to stay buried. At MI5 headquarters, a file marked Venona landed like a bomb on senior investigators' desks. The Americans had shared their most explosive discovery yet decrypted Soviet cables detailing meetings between their agents and a British scientist codenamed Rest. The messages described Manhattan Project data flowing to Moscow. Another codename surfaced, Charles. Linked to the same source, every detail pointed to one chilling conclusion. A British mole had operated at Los Alamos. And he might still be active. MI5 started connecting the dots. Rest was in America in 1944. Rest had top-level access. Rest knew implosion physics. They compiled a list of British scientists at Los Alamos. One name rose like cream to the top: Klaus Fuchs, a naturalized British citizen with the perfect timing and complete access, and something else, old MI5 files from 1940 labeled him a possible communist sympathizer. Back then, Britain needed his genius more than they feared his politics. Now, those dusty reports read like warnings they had tragically ignored. But here was the problem. The Venona evidence was ultra-classified. They couldn't reveal they'd cracked Soviet codes without compromising an invaluable intelligence asset. They needed a confession. This is where Jim Scarden enters our cybercrime documentary. MI5's best interrogator. A man legendary for making stones talk. December 1949. Skardon invited Fuchs for a routine security review. Fuchs walked into that nondescript London office thinking he was helping protect secrets, not suspecting he was about to be cornered about leaking them. Skardon poured tea, discussed the weather, and slowly eased into questions about Los Alamos. He watched Fuchs's micro-expressions, the way his fingers tapped when certain names were mentioned. The first meeting was inconclusive. Fuchs gave nothing away. But MI5 had time. They called him back again and again. Each session, Skardon tightened the psychological noose. He dropped hints about a spy at Los Alamos, mentioned dates that made Fuchs's eye twitch. By the fourth meeting, the brilliant physicist knew they were closing in. January 24th, 1950. This time, Skardon showed his cards. Maybe he mentioned a specific meeting only Rest would know, or a formula that was never officially shared. You can almost see Fuchs's facade crack like ice under immense pressure. He asked to think about things. Went home knowing the game was up. Can you imagine that night? 7 years of perfect deception? Finally discovered. The next morning, January 27th, 1950. Klaus Fuchs returned to the interrogation room, pale, resolved. He looked Skardon directly in the eye. I have come to tell you everything. For 6 hours, Fuchs unpacked his double life like a suitcase full of sins. Yes. He gave atomic secrets to Sonia in 1942. Yes. He met Harry Gold in New Mexico. Yes. He handed over Fat Man's blueprints, even hydrogen bomb calculations. His voice remained clinical, almost detached, until one moment describing the sharing of the plutonium bomb design. His voice cracked. That was the worst thing I've done. But then came the question that truly mattered. Why? Fuchs's answer chilled the room. I wanted to prevent any one country from monopolizing such a terrible weapon. He genuinely believed he was saving the world by betraying it. Think about that psychology. In his mind, he wasn't a traitor. He was a guardian of balance. A reluctant hero preventing nuclear tyranny. Right or wrong? Klaus Fuchs slept soundly for 7 years, believing he had saved humanity. March 1950. A British judge sentenced him to 14 years, the maximum for passing secrets to a wartime ally. Fuchs nodded, accepting his fate like a mathematical proof. But as his cell door slammed shut, his confession had already ignited a chain reaction. What happens when the FBI learns about Harry Gold? Who else was in this spy ring? How deep did the betrayal go? The moment Fuchs's confession reached Washington, the FBI moved like unleashed hounds. They had a name, Harry Gold. In May 1950, Gold was arrested in Philadelphia. Confronted with Fuchs's testimony, he immediately cracked. But here's where it truly spirals. Gold named another accomplice, David Greenglass, an army machinist from Los Alamos. Greenglass caved instantly and pointed to his own brother-in-law, Julius Rosenberg. Suddenly, you're watching an entire spy ring collapse like dominoes. Revealing the insidious nature of coordinated insider threats, Julius and Ethel Rosenberg were arrested by year's end. The American public, gripped by Cold War fever, demanded blood. In 1953, both Rosenbergs would fry in the electric chair, the first American civilians executed for espionage. Think about that progression. One British physicist's confession leads to American citizens dying for treason. The atomic spy fever infected everything it touched. But the real devastation happened in Washington. January 31st, 1950. Barely a week after Fuchs confessed, President Truman made a fateful announcement. America would build the hydrogen bomb, a weapon that made Fat Man look like a firecracker. The timing wasn't coincidental. If the Soviets stole atomic secrets, they might steal H-bomb secrets. 2. America must stay ahead. The arms race shifted into overdrive. November 1952. America detonated Ivy Mike, a 10-megaton monster that erased an entire Pacific island. The Soviets responded with their own H-bomb by 1955. Within 5 years, both superpowers stockpiled enough megatons to end human civilization multiple times over. The balance of terror Fuchs wanted. He got it, but on a doomsday scale. Meanwhile, paranoia consumed America. Fuchs's exposure fueled the Red Scare into an inferno. Careers were destroyed on mere suspicion. Loyalty oaths became mandatory. Neighbors reported neighbors. Senator Joe McCarthy waived his infamous list of communists in government just weeks after Fuchs's trial. The witch hunt had begun. In Britain, the embarrassment cut deep. How did they miss a Soviet spy in their most secret program? They quietly tightened security and shared hard lessons with American allies. Trust no one, especially not the quiet ones. This whole saga highlights a fundamental truth that continues to define our digital landscape. The human element is often the weakest link in any security chain, whether it's Fuchs memorizing formulas, an employee falling for a sophisticated phishing attack, or someone giving away their credentials in a dark web scam. The vulnerability often lies with people. So, what can we learn from a story that unfolded over 70 years ago? And how does it relate to our modern fight against cybercrime? The story of Klaus Fuchs is a chilling reminder of the power of insider threats. In today's interconnected world, an insider isn't just a physicist memorizing equations. It could be a disgruntled employee with access to customer databases, a contractor installing malware, or someone inadvertently clicking on a malicious link in a targeted phishing attack. The principles remain the same. A trusted individual, operating within a secure environment, can inflict catastrophic damage. Here at the Digital Sleuth, we're all about empowering you with the knowledge to protect yourselves. So, let's talk about some practical takeaways from this incredible cybercrime documentary and how we can apply them to fighting, preventing, and recovering from modern digital threats. 1. The power of need to know and least privilege. Just like Fuchs had access to a vast array of atomic secrets, many employees today have far more access to sensitive data than their job truly requires. Implement the principle of least privilege. Users should only have the minimum access necessary to perform their tasks. Regularly review access rights, especially when employees change roles or leave the company. This isn't just for government secrets. It applies to your personal data on social media or in online banking. Only grant permissions for what's absolutely necessary. 2. Multi-factor authentication (MFA) is your first line of defense. While Fuchs used a photographic memory, modern insider threats often stem from compromised credentials. Strong, unique passwords are a start, but MFA adds a critical layer. It's like requiring a key and a fingerprint to enter a highly secure vault. Even if someone obtains your password through a phishing attack or a data breach, they can't access your accounts without that second factor. Whether it's a code from your phone or a biometric scan, this is non-negotiable for email, banking, and any sensitive online service. 3. Recognize and report phishing and social engineering. Fuchs was motivated by ideology. But many insider breaches today begin with social engineering. Phishing attacks are more sophisticated than ever. They often mimic legitimate communications from banks, IT departments, or even colleagues. Always be suspicious of unsolicited emails, texts, or calls asking for personal information, login credentials, or urging you to click unusual links. If it seems too good to be true or too urgent, it probably is. And if you suspect an attack, report it immediately to your IT department or relevant service provider. 4. Data loss prevention (DLP) and monitoring. While Fuchs copied documents by hand, modern data exfiltration can happen in seconds. Organizations need robust DLP solutions that monitor and prevent sensitive information from leaving the company network. This includes detecting unusual downloads, emails with large attachments, or attempts to access restricted files. For individuals, this means being mindful of what you share online, especially on public Wi-Fi networks, and always using a reputable VPN. 5. Employee training and security culture. Fuchs was an anomaly. driven by deeply held beliefs. But many insider threats are accidental, an employee clicking the wrong link, falling for a dark web scam promising quick money, or unknowingly downloading malware. Regular, engaging cybersecurity training is crucial. Foster a culture where security is everyone's responsibility, and employees feel comfortable reporting suspicious activity without fear of reprisal. 6. The human element is unpredictable. This is the big one. As we saw with Fuchs, even the most brilliant minds can be swayed by ideology, grievances, or perceived injustices. Modern cybersecurity must account for the human factor. Regular background checks, psychological evaluations for high-security roles, and fostering a positive work environment can mitigate some risks. But no system is foolproof against a determined individual from within. This is why robust monitoring and proactive threat intelligence are critical. Klaus Fuchs walked free in 1959, disappearing into East Germany, spending his remaining years as a physicist behind the Iron Curtain. The West tried to forget him, but privately, intelligence officials still wondered. The ultimate irony is that Klaus Fuchs might have actually achieved his goal. The nuclear standoff he enabled lasted through the entire Cold War. The bombs never fell. The balance held. Humanity survived its own worst invention. Was that despite Klaus Fuchs? Or because of him? You decide. The echoes of this story resonate today, reminding us that the greatest threats often come not from outside, but from within. Whether it's state secrets or your personal financial data, understanding the human element in cybersecurity is paramount. Stay vigilant. Stay informed. And remember, knowledge is your best defense. Thank you for joining me on this deep dive into one of history's most pivotal betrayals. If you found this cybercrime documentary fascinating, hit that like button, subscribe to the Digital Sleuth, and ring that notification bell so you don't miss our next investigation. Until next time, keep your firewalls up and your wits sharper. The Digital Sleuth, signing off.